My name's Andy Nelson. I'm a professor in food security here at ITC.
Do you know the Global Food Security Index?
I'm not so sure about the index.
All the gains that we were making over the last decades have suddenly been reversed.
Would you like to check out that index to see where you rank?
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's scary, but why not?
Yes, that's my country.
Oh yeah, we're 68th.
It doesn't say well.
So my biggest wish would be to change that curve again. It's trying to paint a global picture of the way in which we produce, process, trade and consume food. And if you can paint a picture about all these different elements in the different countries, you can start to see maybe common patterns, emerging issues. Are there different policies or interventions that are needed to bring it back in line? Where are the investments most needed? And that, I think, is the importance of these kind of index, to try to condense down all of the richness and the complexity into something that just starts a conversation.
Availability is a bit low.
And then if you see an issue, then you can dig down and go, why?
What classified as availability?
And what could our technology and experience do to maybe answer some of it?
The issue about availability, it also relates about how Indonesia itself is an archipelago country.
Yes, it is just by the geography of the country more challenging to have so much connectivity across sea. That in turn has a cost. It's more expensive than perhaps transporting by road or rail. So there are things you can do. There are things that you could perhaps support or subsidize and encourage, but you have to work with what you've got. It all relates to what's the best kind of food system that you can devise in terms of sustainability. You know, it's something that can provide enough food for everyone without degrading the natural resources. But also, where do you get your food from? How much can you produce yourself locally? How much do you want to have more regionally within the country, and how much from other places? And you're trying to look at what's the right balance. What do you want to encourage? What do you want to support? And so every country has a different balance of these things, just because of what they can produce in their own climate and environments.
We import from several countries, and we also produce in France, so I think our food security is quite reliable in France.
Food security isn't just about the quantity, it's also about the nutritional value, but also some of the cultural issues. Yeah, you can provide enough food to somebody, but if you need to switch and say, oh, sorry, we've run out of rice, we're going to have to now provide corn or wheat, then in many cultures they'll be like, no, that's not what I want to eat. You know, my culture and my diet and my cooking is all rice-based. So that's more about, does the food meet your expectations? The Dutch diet, yeah, we could probably produce enough food in the Netherlands, you know, just for ourselves, but it wouldn't be a very interesting diet. You know, we depend on trade. If we don't have trade, no coffee, for example, and I don't want to imagine a world without coffee. And so it's a different puzzle for every country. What makes it dynamic is because of the shocks that can happen at any one time.
When thinking about it as well, it relates with many issues. For like example, when the COVID came in, it has impacts on the food stability as well.
COVID was a classic example. The impact that had on availability of food and also affordability was quite a shock to the system, simply because food and people couldn't move for quite a lot of time. I was in a number of Zoom calls during that time with people saying, where can we get data about how food moves around? And I said, well, if you're asking for it now, it's too late, because the problem's already here and we should have been looking at this earlier. So that was one of the reasons why we started to really investigate, okay, what can we do to better understand the flow of food? Because if we can do that now, we can be better prepared next time that something like that happens. And that's the kind of information that we can contribute to, the kind of spatial models we could make about the flow of food, how it gets from A to B, and can you improve the resilience so we don't suffer so much when there's a shock to the system? What's your plan B? Remote sensing isn't going to give you all of what you need, but it's a part of that package of information to make earlier and more transparent decisions.
Maybe 5% is occupied by cities.
Urban, I think about 30%.
I would say 40%, maybe 50%.
Oh, that must be quite a bit. I'm going to take a stab and say about like 40%.
At least it's above 50. Maybe it's not 55 to 60 something.
Maybe 40 or 30.
This is often a surprise. It's our best estimate. It's between 1 and 2%.
1%, that's it?
Only one. Okay. Then I'm bad at that one.
Okay, I'm surprised.
Only one? Really?
Oh, 1%. Okay.
Okay, that's a new thing to me then.
Oh.
That's so small.
Oh, what great responses. You know, we are really concentrated in a very small footprint. If you add it all up, now we see like more than 50% of the world's population lives in cities, so we're really concentrated in those areas. And those cities have a huge demand for food every day. You know, we're highly dependent on trade. But this means the increasing importance that we have on this needs to be better understood, so that when a shock like COVID happens, we know what we can best do about it, because you have to meet that demand day after day after day.